Thank you very much, Ashwin. Let me introduce the panelists in this very exciting topic that we're going to be discussing today. I have two panelists with me. The first, Sriram Krishnan. He's the Managing Director and the Co-Head for the Global Transaction Banking Deutsche Bank. He has over 25 years of experience in the Indian banking and financial services space with specialization in security and fund services. He has also worked with Citibank, HSBC, Franklin Templeton, and Stakeholding Corporation of India. Our second panelist today is Mohua Sengupta. She's a seasoned IT services leader with over 25 years of successful track record in creating, transforming organizations. A growth evangelist, Mohua thrives on challenges and creating values for the organization. Digital transformation and emerging technologies, including blockchain, are her focus areas. She has industry experience in banking, insurance, healthcare, and commodity trading. She's also a regular writer in these areas and is a much publicized author. Interestingly, she is passionate about theater. So let's talk about this topic. The after effects and challenges of the post-lockdown scenario has come in many forms and shapes. For businesses, it is about understanding their customer and how the behavior of latter will impact the future. Enterprises are finding it really difficult to understand the new customer and their expectation, but also they have to give the experience in a much better form than earlier. These customers have become more savvier than ever before the lockdown was there, since digital is the only way that they can communicate and connect in today's world. At the same time, enterprises are also facing newer and unheard of challenges from their competitors, disruptors, some of whom did not even exist recently. Therefore, the need of the hour for enterprises is to remodel and become a frictionless and intelligent organization with as much possible efforts and intelligence that they can put in so that they can give superior customer experience, not only to their external customers, but also to their colleagues and employees. The COVID-19 crisis has also validated and accelerated the move towards frictionless enterprises. While we still do not know exactly how the post-pandemic world will settle down, what we do know is that to sustain in the emerging world, it will be even greater need to have more agility and seamless connections with customers, partners, employees, the extended enterprise. That is supplemented by a deeper digital transformation, automation, and state-of-the-art technology transformation. Now, the road ahead is challenging in terms of the legacy that we have in a large organization, the culture, the processes, and the existing technology. So obviously it creates frictions. And many businesses went through a varied degree of shock during different periods of COVID-19, and they're having to think on their feet, to rethink, to remodel their business models, the market positioning, their supply chain, and human resources, and how they're going to be able to connect them, work from home, and so on and so forth. So we have had to adjust, not only make tweaks and adjustments, and sometimes they have been transformational. Since our panelists are from the deep industry, they have deep industry knowledge on BFSI, let me ask the first question to both of them to understand the impact of COVID-19 in this industry with some examples, or any other industry that you are seeing, adjacent industries or others. Over to you, Sriram, first.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amrita. So let me start with what happened when the lockdown began last year. And one of the first things that we started thinking about was the people, because this is such a people-dependent industry, the banking and financial services industry. We had a challenge in terms of training and deploying people that were recently hired. And on the other hand, we had to hire a lot of people for our future plans and growth and so on. So just the hiring bit, the way we have taken it to the next level amazes me, no end. For example, just on one day, we hired about 400 people, just on one day, and onboarded all of them on another set date. In fact, 427 people to be very precise. This is This is unbelievable stuff. Pre-COVID, if somebody had told me that we would be able to hire virtually and deploy on board 427 people on one single day, it would have appeared like an impossible task, right? Not just that, the training, the kind of engagement with them, and there is a buddy that has been assigned to each one of them. It's all virtual, but works very well. This, for instance, is a huge achievement. And I never, for example, ever thought that something like this could be managed so seamlessly. Then moving on to processes and how the client experience looks like, in the absence of in-person interaction. Again, out there, it's been incredible. We had to equip our people with, for example, laptops where they did not have office laptops. But we went, a few steps further than that. We were able to enable their personal laptops to connect to the office applications and for them to be able to do their job. We also enabled, office apps on the mobile phone where possible. We moved the office phone, to their laptops, literally. So if you call their landline number, even today they'll answer the call. It was so seamless, and that itself is a brilliant, continuity factor, right? We were able to move the office desk in cases where clients felt that would be more comfortable for them, as in the chair where they normally used to operate out of, on which they used to sit, and so on. We supplied headsets to people for them to be able to, clearly, listen to what the other person is saying. We reimbursed data expenses. We upgraded to Zoom meetings, for example. We become compatible with all the other platforms through the office infrastructure. We now, we've got thin clients done for all the entire staff. We are upgrading to a higher, architecture, a better experience for internal meetings and collaboration. We've enabled video calls from the mobile phones for us to be able to see each other while speaking. Of course, it can be done through FaceTime and so on, but we have a proper official mechanism for this now. This is incredible. All of this stuff which has happened is quite incredible. Plus, if you look at the clients and what they have been up to, if you look at fund managers, they've been able to deploy artificial intelligence and data processes which have been migrated to robotics to an extent. So there are 2,000 data points which are now being presented in the form of a digital dashboard to them on a daily basis for them to quickly analyze, assimilate that information and make those calls. If you look at the advent of platforms, there are so many platforms in the market today, like a Zerodha or a Grow or a Paytm, of course, being one of the first ones to be available, and so on, right? The platforms are the guys who have been able to take it up to the next level very seamlessly and easily. The level of digitalization has obviously increased enormously during this time. People have gotten used to all these apps. Also, the ability to support, in these times and situations. For instance, the regulators wanted some old, data in the form of copies of applications and so on, which we were able to retrieve because we had digitalized better probably than most others in the market. And also, things like, there were no changes in timelines for customers and so on, deadlines and so on, which we were able to support seamlessly. So stuff like this probably helps in market positioning, helps in the way people perceive you as an HR-focused organization, or just the ability to rethink the business model. So that's my take on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Sriram. And for you, Moha, what do you have to say?
Yeah, so first I'll start with a ditto because he has covered a lot of things. So as he said, I mean, everything in Mashreq, everybody is on Teams, everybody is working remotely. We have nobody working from office as of now. And as a bank, we have also announced that we are a work from anywhere bank. So I would say very soon, 80% of the bank would be working remotely, and a certain percentage, of course, regulatory requirement needs them to work from office. So I would not talk about the things that almost every bank has done, like this phone video calls and all the connectivity tools. I think the entire industry has really moved by leaps and bounds thanks to this COVID-19. Certain banks had the advantage, like say a Mashreq or a BBVA or a Barclays, who are more innovation focused. We had an advantage. 98% of our staff were fully operational in the first wave within the first week, which was one of the best in the industry. And that was possible because innovation investments started in Mashreq long back. Whereas for a lot of others, it started with the first wave. So most of us, I think everybody is pretty much on a level playing ground when it comes to actually enabling their people. Training, onboarding, everything. So I won't, Sriram has already covered that pretty detailed, so I would not deliberate on that. What I would talk about is what this has also done is a big part of this change is security. What this working from home or working from anywhere has brought in is the challenge on security. Being from the financial services industry, it is a major risk for us. So what Mashreq has done is it has always been focused on security measures, but I cannot say how much more, how manyfold it has gone by manyfold, because security is something which cannot be compromised as a bank. So that is one area where our bank is really focused on. Besides this,
in fact, if I may add, data and data privacy, content was also a really big challenge.
Absolutely.
Because when you allow people to work from home, it brings in those type of frictions also, if I may say.
And it's not just network.
Just not the security. Yeah, exactly.
It is not just network. See, when people are working from home, before we had all kinds of restrictions. You cannot take a picture. You cannot carry your cell phone. Now, all of that is out of the window. Somebody else can do your job. So there are many measures that have been put in order to bypass this. When I look at the customer side of it, for us, currently, only 3% of our transactions are in branch. 97% is out of branch. And we have about 300 odd robos processing 100,000 plus transactions for our size of a bank. That's a humongous number. So what we are seeing as a result of this is a perfect or a frictionless world between robos and human beings. So human resources and robos are really
we'll
working.
Talk a little bit more about that a little later. But you know what's going on in my mind, therefore, the initial phase was scramble and try to get your business going again with employees and colleagues working out of home. And so lots of investment went in initially. But after that, it was because, the revenues in a lot of the industries were going down and the customer interaction was going down. Cash conservation and cash management became very, very important. So, they were thinking about and remodeling about becoming an agile organization, about, being leaner and fitter. So what would you say is the role that technology played, and how did your organizations or otherwise the BFSI or any other industry really focus on cash management?
Well, I think, cash management began with corporates, for example, asking for a line of credit. This is not something that they have envisaged in the past, but the crisis taught them that they need to have that access to excess funds, access to liquidity. That became the norm, and everybody was willing to pay a premium for that if need be. The other focus was obviously on cost reduction, given that revenues were getting impacted, or at least initially looked like getting impacted. But of course, in hindsight, if we were to look at it, Deutsche Bank, for example, had a blockbuster year in 2020. We had a phenomenal run and ended up making amazing, revenues and profits in a difficult year is what it looks like. But the focus, obviously, for many organizations was during this journey on how can we bring down costs and how can we be a more agile and leaner, fitter organization, like you mentioned. I think there, many organizations have looked at their space requirements. For example, do we really need this kind of office space? It began there, the discussion. The second few discussions that I've seen is around work from home. Can we make it permanent for people? Even large organizations like Google and Amazon have given that option for people to work from home permanently. The third, set of discussions were around, how can we use technology further to cut costs and to simplify processes and to reach a level where we can deploy robots like Mohua mentioned, or to deploy chatbots like Deutsche Bank has done in a few areas, to not only improve the client experience, but at the same time achieve the objective of bringing down costs. So it's been a variety of thinking that we've seen in this period. It's quite interesting. There are so many things that have happened very creatively, which have not perhaps been seen in the past. So it's lots of learning every single day for all of us. Thank you.
Mohua?
Yeah, so to carry on that, so typically see in any kind of crisis, this is what we see are two kinds of businesses, or simplifying it, two kinds of business. A set of companies who focus only on cost cutting at that point. More often than not, that is not the right option. Having said that, it might be their only option. If the costs are in general a little higher than what it should be, then obviously the pressure comes even more when we are going through trouble. For more leaner organizations, a smarter move has been, and most companies I have seen have done that, is instead of cutting instant cost, yes, maybe travel budget has automatically gone down or some of these administrative costs have gone down. Most companies have intelligently spent on technology, which can ultimately give them a cost advantage, at the same time become a differentiator or a USP for them, that, okay, this is because, as I was giving you the example, so a humongous investment happened in making this working from home seamless and effective so that it can be in the longer run, stay in the long run, continue. And in that case, in order to do that, what you also get is when you enable that, you can move outside of Bangalore to hire. Normally, for a bank of our size, most of us are in Bangalore, which is an expensive city. You move out of Bangalore, you get at least 15-20% break. So those kind of things, but that cost advantage or that kind of cash benefit would come in the second step. Initially, very basic cost cutting for most companies who were not heavily over budgeted. For most companies, it has been more investment to gradually give the cost advantage or better cash flow. That's pretty much what I've seen more.
Yeah, Mohua, but what this has done is that it has shown organizations that digital can really deliver on the business outputs. Mm-hmm. But for that, there are a few design elements, I think, that has come into the forefront. Customer experience. Amazon always was focused around, let's say, customer experience. Everything they did, their processes or their technology was around that. I think more and more organizations need to think about it, and banks especially. There was a lot of heavy processing, shared services at the back end, let's say. But at the front end, now that the branches, as you were saying, only 3% at the branches, and then 97% is, let's say, faceless in that sense. Focusing on the customer experience and the design of the technology outputs, as I may say, or the UI UX aspects also are important. So anything that comes to your mind that you think, oh, this particular example is really, something that I'd like to speak about or is commendable, Mohua?
So see, for Mashreq, it's hard to say because, as I said, Mashreq has always been technology heavy and less people. So a lot of work has already been automated. Digitalization journey in Mashreq started long back. So I cannot say particularly that this is something that was done for customers, especially, which is more UI UX. what I can say is the heavy focus on moving people away from branches, heavy focus on increasing the number of branches which are unmanned, which Mashreq already had, but that number has increased, or rather the manned branches have gone down. And
one was the lockdown impact itself, but what are the other things that maybe Mashreq has done for attracting clients to the digital platforms? Because now you have all genres of or all age groups of people, getting on the banking. Maybe the younger generation, it's okay. But I know, for example, I have to support my very old father during this time. It is really tough. So any examples where you say that the senior citizens, for them, is it those services? What is it that has been redesigned, given this, and something that will carry on? Or maybe Sriram, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, Sriram can go ahead. But the only thing I would say for Mashreq is we have probably invested a lot more on cloud.
Yeah.
Other than that, from a front end, it's very difficult for me to say because the focus was already there. So go ahead, Sriram.
Fair enough.
Thank you. No, from our perspective, one of the things that we've always been thinking about is the Facebook example. Today, if 20 million people open accounts on Facebook, what happens? Nothing happens. I mean, all the accounts get opened, and it's not as if Facebook needs to hire another 2,000 people to manage that increased workload. It's all seamless, it's all frictionless, and it just happens like that. So that's been one of our models. We wanted to scale up, be able to scale up, open new accounts in the banking space with minimal, needs, plus at the same time a great experience for the clients. So we've been focusing on digital market entry to that extent in the past couple of years, and it's just incidental that the COVID-19 happened, and during this time we got tested on that front. So amazingly, we were just in time, with our digital signature concept, which was a big hit with clients, and they realized that they could just sign electronically and Deutsche Bank could accept it. So that was a big plus and a pleasant experience for clients. Other than that, I think if I were to look at other businesses, for example, everyone's reinventing themselves based on the need of the hour. Restaurants that initially offered takeaway, then subsequently started delivering to client homes, right, customer homes, and they tied up with small enterprises like WeFast. They'll go around and deliver the lunch or dinner in a very timely way. So starting from small enterprises like that, all the way up to the big, super large consumers that we have, or corporates that we have. Everybody has reinvented themselves through the technology that's available. For example, we've seen APIs being deployed in a big way. APIs have helped, digital dashboards and instantaneous access to information. The 31st of March typically tends to be a very challenging day for most banks, I'm sure, because the annual thing. And I couldn't have imagined, working away from office on the 31st of March before COVID-19. But now I've seen 2 years on the trot. We've all been remotely working, and still 31st March came and went with absolutely no difficulties whatsoever. So I think all this goes to show that people have adapted to the situation very well, and frictionless, touchless, effortless, whatever you call it, it's all reality now. Thank you.
Good thing, as Mohua was saying, is that a lot of organizations were preparing. They didn't know, of course, that the pandemic would happen, but because technology was being implemented, it was the adoption which was really a challenge on the business side. And this has forced the business to accept all of this technology and then make good use of it, which is really good. Mohua, you were talking about this human and robotic process amalgamation, and a lot of legacy is there. It's a difficult challenge, but do you want to talk about how, or anything that's happening where you're saying the robots are doing more or the bots are doing more? And how is it? Initially, it used to be that humans used to drive, the bots or the automation, and now it's the two of them have to work in tandem in a way, right?
In reality, Amrita, yes, they have to work in tandem, but always humans will drive the robots. I mean, who writes the code? So you cannot really say it's an equal level playing ground. But you're right that a lot more of the functions, the day-to-day processing functions, which is more repetitive, which doesn't need human intervention, I think a lot more today is being done through robots, thanks to the pandemic. I think everybody was in that journey. This pandemic has given a big push. And one other point I want to make is, contrary to what you said, that customer experience, people need to focus more. I would say, at least from the banking industry, the focus on digitalization in the customer experience space was a lot more compared to the middle office and back office. What this pandemic has done has shown that just investing in the front office or the customer experience bit is not good enough. What we needed for people to work from home and do everything remotely is the entire erstwhile front, middle, back office of a bank to be fully digitalized. And actually, in reality, this front, middle, back office no longer exists. It has all collided into one another, and this whole digitalization has actually taken away. I was doing a management session in a business school, and this is one of the key things that the banking industry has seen, that the erstwhile front, middle, back office, next generation of bankers will not even be aware of it because it's all have become so seamless.
That's a very good point that you bring out, Mohua, because yes, not only in BFSI, but across industries, customer experience and digitizing the front end has always been a focus. Yeah, adoption has improved because of lockdown and, customers themselves are forced to get there. But what you have been doing in terms of redesigning your back end and redoing your back end and middle layer services and processes, I think that has been transformational at a fast pace. Sriram, you would agree with comments being made by Mohua?
No, absolutely. Absolutely agree with everything that Mohua has said. And I think, what we've also seen is a period of time where we have had events and conferences. It's not as if we haven't had events and conferences. They've all turned virtual. Even award ceremonies have turned virtual, which in the beginning was a little amusing, but, we've got used to it now, right? We've seen virtual KYC, virtual client onboarding, virtual staff onboarding. In fact, I helped my, father-in-law with his virtual pension life certificate, where everything's done, through the virtual mode, and his bank has acknowledged that, yeah, he is alive and kicking. So it's touching every part of your life today. And as we do every other video call with a client or a partner or a team member, more and more the reality strikes and it makes you aware of the fact that you're working with technology in a clever way. I remember a movie, which I watched many years back called I, Robot.
Yes.
It's more like that movie playing out in many ways. And I think, robots will be part and parcel of life. They say that Hollywood is...
You see a lot of fiction about robots and Mission Impossible and stuff like that. And now some bit of it is becoming, because a lot of these interactions are happening with robots and then getting handed over to humans and back. So it needs to be as seamless as possible, as frictionless as possible, But all of this is putting a lot of pressure on the technology teams and the CIO or CTO being the leader or the IT leader. What do you think has been the impact on that organization as such? Any comments, Sriram?
Yeah, so that responsibility is massive, and in fact we've broken it up into many compartments. If you see, we've got something called CDO now, Chief Data Officer. So one is the entire organization that manages the data. So that's a separate organization by itself. And within technology, again, we're having many streams that are being created. We call them tribes and squads now in Deutsche Bank. And there are some tribes that have been created and squads that are being envisaged as we speak. So it's a different journey altogether. And I think it's important to understand the key pillars of the entire new framework. And I think every organization is in a journey in terms of managing the tech responsibility, and the fact that we are more and more dependent on technology to see the business to the next level. So the awareness has crept in, the activity has started in a big way, And I think a year down the line, we will have a very different story to narrate. Thank you.
It's quite a dichotomy for a technology, if I may interject, Mohua, before you can comment. On one side, it feels that the technology team is losing control in the sense things are going to the cloud, security is becoming much more important on the customer side because of SaaS and other types of, you get applications on demand. But technologies become more in the front end and more in the forefront, where decisions are being taken revolving around what and how innovation around technology can be done. So it's the leaders who can live with this, giving away the control, but on the other hand, being more important for the business to be able to deliver the outputs that they need. Mohua, would you agree with some of these comments?
So I see that CIO and CTO's role has actually become, and that includes CDO and all of that. So to Sriram's point, their role has actually, they've become more powerful in the overall organizational corporate game, I would say. Now, from the job perspective, initially technology is the only thing that they needed to know to be to go up to the ladder of a CIO or CTO. That has changed over the last decade, that they needed to know the business, understand the business, because technology for technology's sake is out of the window a long time back. What has happened in the very recent days, and I won't just say that it's thanks to the lockdown, but maybe for the last couple of years, CIO, CTO are no longer the main purchaser of IT. IT is being purchased by anybody, business owners and many other pockets. So CIOs and CTOs will need to influence their strategy, manage their strategy through influence. So they need to become politically savvy as well. So today, CIO, CTO needs to be tech savvy, which is by default business savvy and politically savvy in the overall corporate scheme of things. So that's where I think a more well-rounded today CIO, CTO have to be more well-rounded in order for them to be successful.
What about the data quality? While the processes are being redesigned, there's a lot of legacy and the IT systems. It's not easy to move that. Let's say the tech department is bringing in the younger generation, is bringing in the right people with the technology knowledge, etc. But given that you have to transform the entire landscape and redo the architecture, the data is fragmented everywhere. So in that space, what are some of the challenges you're seeing?
See, data has always been a problem. Siloed data, we had siloed data, we tried to bring them together. We had data which had incomplete data. Especially in Indian banking system, incomplete data was a big problem. So even now what is happening is less of, I won't say that data quality is perfect now, but it has over the last decade, I would say data quality has improved. Every company has focused on improving their data. It's still a long way to go, but it's still there. What is a bigger challenge today is how do we utilize that data? How do we monetize that data? As they say, data is the new oil. So monetizing the data is where the focus is today. That's why analytics is becoming the biggest thing, a biggest differentiator. And of course, with this entire work from home, data security. I think the biggest focus, as far as data is concerned, the biggest focus today is on data security.
So if I may say, for a seamless hybrid working and the new organization that is happening, we have to focus on who are we, what do we stand for? So the people, diversity, cultural shift that's going to happen. How do we operate? It needs to be seamless and highly autonomous. And the decision-making needs to be fact-based, based on data, and it needs to be a learning organization, and we have to be able to nurture the talent. So these are some of my closing remarks. Any closing remarks, Sriram, from you and then Mohua?
So I think, it's been a journey where we've moved from telephonic calls to video calls to in-person meetings again. Some of us have started coming back to the office, and Some of the clients have also started meeting us in person. But during this journey, we've learned tons of things. I think there's an increased awareness about our responsibility towards nature, and we will see a mindset. We've already seen a mindset shift from, let's say, petrol or diesel vehicles to electric vehicles. So this is also a lesson from this period, pandemic period, right? Likewise, in terms of the organizational setup and how we've been operating, we've come a long way from the days where we used to have more physical records in the office to digitalization. And now we're talking about data quality and taking it to the next level. So it's a journey of from denial to acceptance and then to greatness. And I think we are probably between, greatness, between acceptance and greatness. So I think every organization has made, significant strides in terms of taking data quality and customer experience to the next level. Plus, of course, the investment in technology is now clearly understood, and commitments are available right from the top. So I think the way ahead is an exciting period of time. In fact, the capital markets regulator SEBI just yesterday made an announcement around shortening the settlement cycle for the cash equity segment from T+2 to T+1. That's an indication of, again, another example of the way we have come about. Yeah. Absolutely. So today I think, that's where it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in very short, I mean, this, as Sriram has said, I'll echo that this has been a fantastic learning ground for all of us. And one thing is, while I cannot say where we are heading, no, I don't think any of us can. One thing is sure, that we will not get back to where we left it off in March 2020. So it's something new. I think what this has done is trained us to face more new, and we will see a different banking industry, or any industry for that matter, when we hit, say, 2030. It's not going to look anything like what we had seen in 2020.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I hope you did too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.